Will the Druze remain loyal to the state of Israel? The Arab-speaking minority have long thought they're part of Israel, but the new nation-state law says Israel is a homeland for Jewish people only. The Druze and other minorities are outraged. Can they fight the discrimination? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Mohammed Jamjoom. The new law declares Israel is a homeland solely for Jewish people. Non-Jewish minorities are understandably outraged, including the Druze minority. Tens of thousands rallied in Tel Aviv for one of their largest protests in recent history. They say the new nation-state law passed last month makes them second-class citizens. And after decades of loyalty to the Israeli state, they're disappointed at the discriminatory legislation which affects them and many other non-Jewish people. The Israeli cabinet met on Sunday, where Prime Minister Benjamin Netenyahu had this to say.
The deep ties with the Druze and our commitment to them are also essential. We will establish today a special ministerial committee that will advance those ties and these commitments, and in parallel will also recognize those who serve in the Israeli military and security services from all religions and ethnicities.
Andrew Simmons reports from the village of Beit Jan in northern Galilee.
Salma Zidan is from a minority excluded by Israel in its nation-state law. She's a Druze Arab and her two sons were killed during military service for Israel. She makes a promise.
If this law doesn't change, I will get your bodies exhumed from this military cemetery and bury you in your grandfather's land.
Back home is her youngest son, Yamin. His brothers, Fuad, who was 18, and 23-year-old Salah, gave compulsory service in the military. Yamin became a prison officer in an Israeli jail. And he says that experience changed his perspective. He became a human rights lawyer and activist for Palestinians in the occupied West Bank.
I feel sad the blood of my brothers was shed in vain for a lie and an illusion. They may have thought the military would give them rights, but this law just proves that Israel used them like mercenaries.
The Druze are in all ranks. For example, Major General Kamil Abu Rukn is the new coordinator of operations in the occupied territories. There's no public comment from him. Any soldier showing dissent is suspended.
We asked the soldiers and officers not to get involved in this law and to depend on us.
Tarif and his delegation were given the promise of a new law giving benefits to minorities in the military. But back in Beit Jan and elsewhere, that isn't enough. Most feel nothing short of scrapping the nation-state law will do. You can still sense the anger here despite political developments. And questions about loyalty continue to reverberate. One of them, whether young people will still feel the same way about joining the Israeli army. This former soldier's loyalty is tested. Majdi Khatibi completed his military service before setting up a restaurant business. Now he doesn't want his son to become a soldier.
It's up to him, but now I say military service shouldn't be compulsory. It's all a lie that we've been living for a long time, and the nationality law made this very clear.
Beit Jan's dead soldiers make the feeling of betrayal here more potent. More than 60 names written in Hebrew and below what now becomes an unofficial language, Arabic. One of many measures in what most people in this village believe is a racist law.
Israel's population is just under 9 million. About 75% are Jews of all backgrounds, 20% are Arab of any religion other than Jewish, and 5% are defined as others. The Druze are an Arab-speaking minority of around 130,000 people. They form less than 2% of Israel's population. They practice an offshoot of Islam and live mostly in villages in northern Israel. They are the only non-Jewish minority serving in the Israeli army. The Israeli government designates the Druze as a distinct ethnic community separate from Palestinian Christians and Muslims. All right, let's bring in our panel. Joining us in West Jerusalem, Ariel Kahana, diplomatic correspondent for Israel Hayom. In Tel Aviv, Anan Wahbe, political science researcher at Haifa University. And also in West Jerusalem, Mitchell Barak, a former advisor to former President Shimon Peres and speechwriter for Ariel Sharon. Welcome to you all. Mitchell, I want to start with you. Based on what we heard today from Prime Minister Netanyahu, is there any reason to believe that he will back off from the stance he's taken all along here?
Back off from what sense?
As far as considering any changes to the law, trying to cede to any of the demands that have been made by the Druze community.
I think this is just the start of the discussion. I think that the government didn't realize that they were disenfranchising or almost insulting the Druze community. I think they didn't take it into account, and I think they were a little bit surprised at the heated passion of the Druze community to be included. I mean, they feel part and parcel of the state of Israel, as you showed in your segment. They are fighting in the IDF. They are dying in the IDF, just like anyone else. And the Israel relies on them. They are Israeli in every manner of speaking. So to not have some kind of dispensation or special status in the law was hurtful to them. I think this is a genuine protest on their part to be included. And I think even the person who was pushing this, Naftali Bennett from the Jewish Home Party, came out immediately afterwards and say, we have to make an amendment to this law. And they will fight hard. And they know about Israeli politics and they know about democracy. And they will push it as far as they can go, and rightfully so.
Anan, just how betrayed does the Druze community there feel by this nation-state law?
Well, they reject this law totally, and we are united. We feel this great solidarity inside our community as well as in the Israeli society that support us while we reject this kind of law. It's discriminating against us and bringing maybe a new reality where we might be a second-class citizens in our country after 70 years.
Ariel, how blindsided was Prime Minister Netanyahu and his government by the size of this protest? I mean, this was tens of thousands of people, and this was a very intense demonstration as well.
Well, it was a quite big demonstration, no doubt. Yet I'm not sure that all Druze community is united with this protest and law. For example, we have a Druze minister in the government, Ayub Kara, which of course is supportive of the law, and we can definitely hear other voices. As you may know, there was negotiations last week between the Druze leaders with the government. I'm not sure where it's going to go. Maybe the negotiations will keep going this week. So I'm not sure all the Druze community is united behind this protest. And I may say, at least in my view, that no question there are political motivations. You could see that in the demonstration last night. Actually, it was led by the opposition leaders, by the Labour Party leaders. And therefore, we must know that it's not only a problem that the government has with the Druze, and there is a problem that should be solved. It's also politics. Elections are going to come in less than a year, and all of that is part of the tension we can feel.
Anan, you were listening to what Ariel was just saying. What's your response to his remarks about this playing out, on the political stage in Israel?
Well, probably he did not attend yesterday the square, Rabin Square in Tel Aviv. Everybody that came yesterday to the square could see clear and sound that the Druze are very much united in this rejection of this miserable law. It cannot be accepted, as well as a great other communities inside the Israeli society. Maybe part of them are political. Yes, it's all right. We came yesterday to state that we, the Druze, cannot accept that, and it's our message. Now, maybe others have also other agendas. It's part of this political discussion inside the Israeli society. We must remind that 100 years ago, the Druze chose to be part of this establishment and to support the Jewish people in their way to establish their land state and the homeland, and we believe that we should do so. And this alliance is very strong. And later on, this alliance was also based on the declaration of the state in '48, where it's defined as a Jewish and democratic state. Now, yesterday, we were afraid that the other part of this definition was spelled out, and we cannot find the common ground of what kind of civilians we are going to continue to serve the state and to be together with the Jewish people.
Mitchell, I saw you nodding there. Did you want to jump in and add something?
No, I think you hear the genuine frustration and the genuine insult that the Druze community feels. I think it's part of this is, so you have to then take it a step further. If the Druze feel like they're not equal citizens, well, there's another 20 or 25% of, Israelis of Palestinian or Israelis of Arab descent who are Muslim. They are also equal citizens. Well, the fact is that in the law and in everything that the country is, every citizen in Israel is equal. They all have a right to education, to freedom of speech, to democracy, to voting, and all of them can actually run for not only the Knesset, but for Prime Minister and can serve as Prime Minister. So on the one hand, the language, it's not clear what this law accomplished. It did, as Ariel was saying, we are leading up to an election, and the Prime Minister has done a very good job, it seems, of kind of polarizing the country, polarizing before the election and saying, hey, we represent the Jewish feeling of the state versus the people that want to define themselves as maybe an Israeli or European or democratic nation. And we're going to go after the Jewish side. Israel's a Jewish country, it's a Jewish homeland, and we have Jewish laws and so forth. And that's the main purpose versus everyone else. So it's really just beating the drum of elections. And he's done a very good job of getting this issue spoken about, deflecting any other issues in government, and certainly getting people defining the line in the middle of the country. You're either with us as a Jewish state or you're against us, and that's how he's setting it up.
Ariel, the Druze community has said for so long that they are among the most loyal groups to the state there. So what does this do to that level of support?
Well, I can tell you what's gonna happen with this blood ties that the Jewish people has and the Jewish state has with the Druze. It's for them to say, but I do want to reply to what Anan said before. The Independence Declaration of Israel do not guarantee democracy. It's a well-known mistake, but the Independence Declaration of Israel that David Ben-Gurion on 1948 guarantees that Israel is a Jewish state. It doesn't say democracy. Democracy is guaranteed by the Israeli system in, for example, the human dignity and liberty law, and mainly other law by many Supreme Court's decision during 70 years and so on. But if the point is democracy, then I wouldn't go to the Independence Declaration because it's not the point.
But Ariel, again, if I could just stop you for a second, I mean,
give equal rights to all minorities.
Ariel, if I could just stop you for a second, I mean, you're talking about equal rights, but this basic law, this gives only the Jews in Israel the right to self-determination. So certainly you could see why there are groups there that would consider themselves to be seen as second-class citizens now.
So maybe that's the point. Let's separate between private people, individuals, and nationalities. Israel was established as a Jewish state. I think it's well accepted by the vast majority of Israeli people. By the way, by the Druze, as Anan said, and of course by all the nations of the world. As a state, Israel should be a Jewish state, and that's the reason. Just a minute. That's the reason this law was approved in the Knesset 2 weeks ago, to guarantee after 70 years, also by the legislation, that Israel is a Jewish state. I would say a very, very basic principle that until today just was out of Israeli law books. Okay, that's the reason it was approved in the Knesset after many years of discussions 2 weeks ago. All other rights, like equality to all citizens, to all people who live in Israel, including the minorities, of course, including the Druze and the Arabs as well. All of that is guaranteed, as I said, by other laws and by many decisions of the Supreme Court during the years. And again, one of the basic law which is equal to the nation-state bill is a human dignity and liberty law that was approved in the Knesset maybe 25 years ago. So the point is that the equality was guaranteed many years ago. What the Knesset did now is just to add the again, the very basic, well-recognized fact that Israel is a Jewish state, that's it. But when it comes to private rights of all citizens of Israel, including the Druze, including the Arabs, including citizens who are against the state of Israel, including citizens like some of the Arab politicians who don't want Israel to be a Jewish state, still they have the rights just like I have, just like Mitchell have, just
right,
like Anan has.
Ariel, let me let Mitchell step in here too, because he wanted to make a point. Mitchell, seemed like you were going to be disagreeing with that point. What did you want to say?
No. I mean, what he says is correct, that there are laws that guarantee that everyone is equal. The point of the matter is, why wasn't that mentioned in this law? And, you know, the Labour Party, which, you know, Tzipi Livni is one of the leaders of that party, came to the Prime Minister's people and said, all you have to do is put in a line, democratic. Just put in a line about everyone's equal. And then you won't have 60 people supporting you, you'll have 100. And a law like this should pass with a really clear majority. It wasn't a clear majority. It was, you know, it was a majority. And it was done like right before the Knesset recess. Why? This is like a major thing. It should have been done with as much agreement as possible. And the Prime Minister's people, what was reported in the paper, came back to her and said, no, this has to be a definitive law. We are doing this, and it's not this. And, you know, it's not, you know, so it didn't really change very much, because I still am asking people, what has Israel gained from this? Meaning, has it really gained a lot? Because all these things, as Ariel said, are anchored in laws, Supreme Court decisions, other laws. It did take away from Arabic. Arabic at one point was like an official language. It did say they would determine what it is. But, you know, again, and I think it's very indicative that Benny Bacon, one of the leading stalwarts of the Likud for many, many years, didn't vote on this law. In fact, he was going to vote against it. In the end, he decided to walk out. And he said, this is not the party that my father, Menachem Begin, would have been proud of. And there's a reason for that, because the old-time Likud people and the old-time Zev Jabotinsky people said this is a Jewish state, and it is a rule of law, and it's a majority rule, but that's always keeping in mind the minority. We have rule of law. This is an equality-based system. And I think we've lost a lot of that today, and a lot of what's coming out now from people is that why is it that we had to stick it in the face of the other Israeli citizens to say, okay, we're going to define it officially as a Jewish state, Hebrew is a Jewish language, Jewish holidays and so forth, just so you know. I mean, they know that already. So what was gained by this?
Okay, Anan, let me ask you. The Knesset is going to be holding a special session. They're coming back from recess at the behest of lawmakers there. They're going to be meeting in a couple of days to discuss this law further. Are you hopeful that anything more can happen, that there can be changes? But beyond that, what have the overtures been thus far from Prime Minister Netanyahu, members of his government, to the Druze community to try to diffuse this situation?
Yeah, so we can see that the election campaign has already started. Just the moment this law was legislated, it started, and it's going to be next year. The Israeli citizens are going to polls, and I'm afraid that this law is coming much more from concern and maybe somehow very, very bad reasons, rather than strengthening the Israeli society. And we, of course, when it comes to declarations and to a written text, the Druze are clear and sound. We cannot accept any formula that excludes us out. We do support the Jewish state. We think that we wouldn't choose to live in other countries rather than together with the Jews. We feel very good here. And we are positioned in a very good positions as Druze in all fields. We have high-ranking officers, etc. But we have to talk also about the next generation. And yesterday in the square, a lot of the youngsters Druze, the Israeli Druze, that came to the square to say that we are concerned that maybe this new formula is going to be very bad to us. We expect the Israeli Prime Minister to change this law, maybe some amendment, I don't know. I'm not a politician. We can help in maybe preparing a text. We think that ambiguity was a better solution. We should remind here that there is no constitution in the state of Israel. There was the declaration of the state, which started somehow to design the character of the State of Israel and the social dimensions as well. And we felt very good with that. Now, today, when it comes to a written text that excludes us, we cannot accept that. And there is no compromise. We are not going to step back. And we are going to throw the ball to the Jewish majority, our brothers here in the homeland, in our beloved country, and they should decide if they want us in or out. And this is the major question that we are going to ask Netanyahu.
Ariel, it looked like you were nodding along there. Did you have something you wanted to add in response to what Anan was saying?
Yes, I do. I just want to reply in one sentence to what Mitchell said before. Mitchell, the fact that you mentioned Tzipi Livni, it tells you that's politics. You know very well that Livni is for years is fighting against Netanyahu. She's moving from one party to another just to challenge his leadership. So I won't take her position, in such a serious way of thinking. Now, replying to Anan, I want to tell you, Anan,
she said she would vote for it.
From Adam.
She said she would vote for it, though.
Yeah, so I'm telling you the way I see it, okay? If Netanyahu would add the democracy, which just doesn't relate to this law, that's the reason it's not here. But if she would find other reason to go against it, because very well she's looking for a way to be against Netanyahu.
It's the nation-state law. How could you say democracy?
It's a nation-state law which she supported in the beginning of the way when she was the leader of Kadima. Okay, when Knesset member Avi Dichter began this law,
but it's a nation-state law. How could you say?
Okay.
Listen, Mitchell, let me ask you.
And she would have voted for it, but all she wanted was the democracy.
Mitchell, let me ask you something. Your research group recently did a survey in which you measured the attitudes of Arab public in Israel towards Israel. Sure. And the responses from the Druze community were largely, overwhelmingly, I would say, positive. So what does this nation-state law do to that?
Through the roof. Through the roof. It's through the roof. I've never seen numbers like this. I was commissioned to do a poll by the Konrad Adenauer Foundation from Germany that has an office here. We polled 1,000 Israeli Arab citizens and Jerusalem residents within that group. We did 3 focus groups, and the numbers from the Israeli Druze community were through the roof. When you ask them, do they have a favorable, unfavorable impression of the Israeli police, it's 85%. Of the army, it's 90%. Of the Supreme Court, it's in the 80s. It's in the 90s when you ask them, is Israeli citizen a positive or negative thing? 96% or something to have an Israeli passport. It's better than any Jewish segment of group. Maybe the Israeli right of center national religious settlement community has the same level of patriotism towards Israel as the Druze community. I've never seen anything like it. So I can't predict based, you have a guest in the studio who's much better at that. I can tell you coming into this law, I've never seen a group of citizens, Jewish or not Jewish, that were prouder to be part of Israel, that were more patriotic, that viewed the institutions more favorably than the Druze community.
Mitchell, sorry to stop you, it's just that we're almost out of time. I want to give the last word here to Anan. Of course, we've been speaking about the military. There are several Druze military officers that have recently said that they would stop serving in the army if the nation-state law is not revoked. What do you think of that? And could this cause wide-scale insubordination within the ranks of the military from Druze officers?
Well, I don't think so. We feel that in our community that our soldiers are going to continue serving the army, and they are very patriotic, as was mentioned, and very loyal to this state and to the idea of the Jewish and democratic state. There's no concern about that. We are only shaping the future. We want to continue building this strong state, and we think that the soft power of the state, of its society from inside, is much more important than its military power. And I'm afraid that this law is rejecting somehow a worry and concern that we do not want to see anymore. We are strong enough as a society, as an Israeli society, to be talking about civil equalities, and especially for the minority like the Druze.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to have to leave it there. We are out of time. Thanks to all of our guests, Ariel Kahana, Anan Wahbe, and Mitchell Barak. And thank you, too, for watching. You can see the program again anytime by visiting our website, aljazeera.com. And for further discussion, go to our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/AJ Inside Story. You can also join the conversation on Twitter. Our handle is @AJ Inside Story. From me, Mohammed, Jamjoom, and the whole team here. Bye for now.